today, Hobby Lobby filed their brief in the court case before the United States Supreme Court regarding Obamacare's HHS mandate. Now, we've talked a lot about this. It's coming soon. Next month will be the oral arguments. But under the HHS mandate, if employers refuse to pay for pills or procedures that violate their conscience, procedures, by the way, that could prevent or end an unborn life, the federal government will exact a price. And in the Hobby Lobby case, it's a hefty one. Staring down more than $26 million in fines each year, the Green family took the administration to court, and this afternoon, as I said, they filed their official brief in the case. Congressman James Lankford, who represents the area in which the headquarters of Hobby Lobby is located in Oklahoma City, he and I today wrote a joint op-ed that appeared on USA Today, giving an overview of this case and how important it is. And you can read this. Just go over to TonyPerkins.com and you can find the links to the story. Now, joining me now is Congressman James Lankford, who represents the 5th Congressional District of Oklahoma. Congressman, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Tony, thanks. Great to be with you, and nice to be able to co-write that op-ed with you.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and I know this is I talked to the Green family last week, and this is a big deal for them. They're putting a lot on the line, but, you know, they're standing in for many, many Americans in defending religious freedom. This is a big case, isn't it?
It is a very big case, and what's interesting is to know the Green family like I do. They are a quiet, godly family that they don't pursue publicity. They just love serving people, and they love serving God, and they take great care of their employees and what they do. This is not in their character. They don't want to be in a lawsuit like this, but the administration has changed the rules on them, and they're forced to be able to respond. So this is not something they pursued. This is the administration pursuing them.
Now, Congressman Lankford, let's break this down for our listeners so they know exactly what's going on here. Under the HHS mandate, there's about 20 different items that are required. The Green family only object to 4 of what's called the preventive or contraceptive aspects, and the ones that they are concerned about are those that have the potential to end a human life.
That's correct. And people need to understand this is not something that's in the Obamacare law. So you're not going to actually go through the Affordable Care Act, go through and find page number and section of the law. There's a section of the law that allows the President and the Secretary of HHS to determine what they consider preventative-type medicine. And then whatever they determine is preventative, then they just can create a rule and mandate all businesses pay 100% of that cost. So instead of having something in the law that says these different contraceptives and these different abortifacient drugs have to be in there, the administration has literally created this out of their regulatory authority and imposed it on the business. And their particular business, and their, as individuals, as from a Christian worldview, said we have a real problem with abortion. We do not want to pay for abortion services or for drugs that can cause an abortion. And so that's where they've stepped up and said we believe in life and don't think that the federal government should step in and force us to pay for something that ends a life.
And I would venture to say, Congressman Lankford, that if this had been in the legislation mandating this, that it would not have passed.
It would not have passed because there were enough individuals that would say, hey, we're not going to force this. But the administration was, quote-unquote, smart enough not to put that in the law. They were just going to create it out of regulations. It is a unique moment, though, that where they say you've got to follow the law. This is really not following the law. This is the preferences of the administration. And in this moment, what is literally happening is the administration is saying to an owner of a business that's a faith-based business, is saying to them, we as the administration have a certain set of beliefs. You have a certain set of beliefs. Your beliefs are different than ours, so you have to change your beliefs to ours or we will fine you. And the fine for them is $1.3 million a day until they change to the administration's preferences. That is untenable. Constitutionally, it's untenable. It's untenable in the business itself.
Congressman Lankford, let's talk about that preference for just a moment, because I think it's very revealing that if the family just said, look, we're not going to provide health care anymore, we're just not going to do it, they would pay a fine of $2,000 a year per employee.
That's correct. According to the Obamacare law, that if you provide no insurance at all per employee, it's a $2,000 fine.
But then under this scenario, they'll provide everything but 4 drugs that could result in the death of a human embryo, a human child. They don't want to provide funding for that. So if they do everything else, comprehensive health care, everything but those 4 drugs, they'll be fined how much money?
They'll be fined, instead of $2,000 a year if they don't provide anything. If they provide everything but those 4 drugs, they'll be fined $36,500 per employee per year. So just put that in perspective, and it tells you how passionate this administration is about trying to force a company and a group of individuals to their will and to their desires. Provide no insurance, $2,000 fine. Provide insurance but not provide those abortifacient drugs, $36,500 fine. So this is a very, very punitive fine.
That tells it all, right there. I mean, when you see what the priorities...
Yeah, it definitely articulates the priorities of this administration and how passionate they really are about abortion.
They would rather an employer that has religious convictions simply say, you know what, we're just not going to provide health care anymore. You're just going to have to get it on the health care exchange. But there's one factor here that we have to discuss, because I've talked to some of these employers like the Green family and the Hahn family, that's the Conestoga Wood, which is the other plaintiff in this case. They want to do what's right for their employees. They want to provide health care. They want to provide an opportunity to make a good living and a good environment and help them provide for their families.
They do. And what's so difficult about this is the Hobby Lobby company and the Green family in particular, they've done such a great job of taking care of employees. Their starting pay there is $14 an hour. They don't pay minimum wage. Their starting pay is $14 an hour. They want to engage in people immediately and help take care of families and provide at whatever level that they can to be able to help take care of people. They've always provided health care. They provide Sundays off. They close early on Wednesday nights. They do a lot of things for families where they close down a little bit earlier. They don't stay open as long as other stores because they want their employees to be able to spend time with their families as well. They're a very family-oriented company, very faith-oriented company, and are now being punished for that by this administration.
It's amazing, but I want people to understand, Congressman Lankford, that this is not about contraception. It's not even really about health care. This is about the freedom of religion. This is about the ability of someone who wants to enter the marketplace to be able to conduct their business as a really an extension of their worship as they serve God. As he tells us that everything you do unto the Lord. The Obama administration is saying you can't do that.
That's correct, and that is the big issue for them. That's why this very quiet family that loves just taking care of their employees and taking care of people in their stores is now having to step out, because for them this is a religious liberty issue. I had the distinct privilege, I sat with some of the members of the Green family during the National Prayer Breakfast, where the president stood up and spoke last week and talked about religious freedom and how we as a country stand for religious freedom, and we're trying to extend that around the world. And I found it very ironic that I'm sitting with some of the members of the Green family at that breakfast while the president's speaking about religious freedom, and I thought, I wonder what's going on in their head right now. You know, this president's actually pushing against religious freedom in our own country at the same time he's speaking out as a value. It is a value not just because it's written into our Constitution. It's a value because what we believe as Americans, that we should be free to worship or not worship, but for a person that worships, we do not impose a faith on them. And to be able to try to say, this administration knows better than you, you're going to change your practice.
Yeah, I just couldn't. I had a hard time with the president keeping a straight face when he was saying that. I mean, when he was talking about the life issue and then transitioning into the religious liberty issue, I couldn't even believe he was saying it, given the fact that this case was unfolding right before him on both really the life and the religious liberty issue. I mean, clearly there's a disconnect there with the president and what he is espousing through his words and what he's actually doing with his policy.
Right. The words matter, but actions matter most. It's not your belief that changes everything, it's your practice.
Congressman Lankford, before I let you go, I know a lot. I mean, this is an issue we've talked a lot about for the reasons you and I were just discussing about the fundamental attack on religious freedom and why that is so important that we defend religious freedom regardless of what the issue is. But folks are wondering, what can Congress do? At this point, are Congress's hands tied?
Well, we have two things we can do. Well, obviously, we have to have a dramatic change in the Senate because the House continues to put out resolutions. House continues to push on it to be able to talk about it. We obviously have an amicus brief that many of us in the House have signed to be able to send over to the Supreme Court, saying this is the position of members of Congress, that we believe religious freedom trumps the preferences of the administration. But this has now landed squarely in the Supreme Court of the United States. And the 25th of March, they will hear this case, and then sometime in June, we'll receive the decision back from the Supreme Court. But this is a very large landmark case, whether an administration can tell a business and a business owner and an individual if they have to change their practice to match the administration. So we're trying to do everything that we can to be able to lay out the case clearly before the Supreme Court and to make sure that we're articulating this is the view of many of us in Congress.
All right. Congressman James Lankford, thanks so much for being with us today. And again, thanks for co-authoring that op-ed with me.
Well, glad to be able to do it. Thanks, Tony, for continuing to stand up for life and for our freedoms.
All right. Congressman James Lankford of Oklahoma, one of the good guys.